Hi everybody, Adrian Plass here.
And Bridget, hello.
Nice to be with you again. We continue to have some very interesting things coming in. In addition to our collection of signs and notices, is a sign on a great big board. I think it's in America, I'm not sure, which says prophecy class cancelled through unforeseen circumstances. Which is quite interesting. And some with a little bit more depth. There was somebody who wrote to say that after much consideration, he had decided that although in his heart he'd always wanted to be, as it were, an espresso coffee, he has now decided that God is quite happy for him to be a cappuccino. And I think that was actually a fairly serious conclusion to come to. But it was rather quaint, rather sweet that it's couched in those terms.
Yeah. I don't know how far you take it. An espresso sort of small and dark and strong, and a cappuccino sort of very frothy and all the rest of it. But I don't think that's quite what he meant. I think he meant something a little gentler than something really dynamic and strong, and being happy with that. And, you know, I came across a verse that's stuck in me, really, not just maybe for me, but for other people. It's in Timothy, 2 Timothy 20, it is. In a large house, some dishes are made of gold and silver, while others are made of wood and clay. Some of these are special and others are not. And that's how it is with people. Well, I know myself and I know other people. I know they'll think, I know who I am. I'm a wood and clay. I'm not gold and silver. I know who the gold and silver ones are. And if you can't sing, the gold and silver ones are the ones up there singing beautifully. If you're lousy at organisation, then they're the brilliant ones, and so on and so on. They're definitely not us. And it goes on to say, the ones who stop doing evil and make themselves pure will become special. So in a way, that's back to the rowing, back to the idea of what you do every day. When you maybe don't feel very special at all, but you're kind of trying to follow Jesus, that those are the ones that God looks at and says, yes, stay who you are. Just be the very best cappuccino or the very best espresso that you are. Well, yesterday was NHS Thursday again, wasn't it?
Yeah, actually, we nearly missed it because we realise now you can't rely on your stupid clocks on your walls that are 3 minutes out. So I tried to use our phone, which has the right time on, but we got out just in time.
We did.
Just in time.
We did, and it's getting even more vibrant at the moment. I don't know about where you live, but there seem to be more people coming out, more people just wanting to say thank you, not just to the NHS, but to all the people who are slogging themselves and trying so hard to get it right. And one of the things that's changing, certainly in our road and probably in yours, is that there are rainbows in lots of windows. And I know part of that is to stimulate children, give them a chance for something to count when they're walking. But also we know that rainbows are a symbol of hope, but also they always surprise us, don't they? They always make us gasp. What makes you gasp, baby?
What makes me gasp?
Yeah.
What do you mean rainbows make you gasp?
Well, I know rainbows do. The number of photos we've tried to take.
We had a rainbow once at Scargill House where we worked a lot, which appeared abruptly across the valley.
Yeah.
And it was so dynamic, so extraordinary, that the place was hushed for a little while.
Yeah.
So, sometimes they're absolutely remarkable. What else for me?
Yeah.
Well, I suppose when I look back, one of the things that was unbelievable was seeing my first son for the first time. I wasn't allowed in the room because they did something or other that fathers aren't allowed to be there for. But when I held this little child, that made me gasp. I mean, what kind of magic is that? A baby, a person, a son. It was very strange and very wonderful. And another one that occurs to me, and I think we share this one, is that we had a really wonderful holiday in Florence once, didn't we?
Oh, we did.
And one of the things that really took my breath away, and I think yours, was the first view of the genuine, and you see lots of copies of this, which are very pale in comparison, of Michelangelo's 17-foot statue of David in the, what's it called?
I think it's the Academia Gallery, isn't it? Yeah.
In Florence. And I had to sit down.
It's so
it was
big.
unspeakably beautiful. And looking at it, you thought, somebody dreamed this. You know, they got a huge chunk of marble, and they hacked and chiseled and polished and got the dream out of it.
Yes, got the dream out of it.
It really brought tears to my eyes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one thing I'm sure you will remember immediately was, sounds as though we travel all over the world. Well, I suppose we have really. On a
Not just at the moment.
Not just at the moment, no. One night in Queensland, Australia, on the east coast of Australia.
It was Bundaberg, wasn't it?
Yeah, Bundaberg. They make very good ginger beer there
Yes.
too. One night in Queensland, we went out by night and we watched by torchlight as, and some of you will have seen this on the television, or perhaps actually like us seen them, baby turtles clambered out of their holes in the sand where the eggs have been laid, and then wobbled determinedly straight towards the sea. Remarkable. And we know that decades later, the survivors, and I think a lot of them get eaten and stuff, but would return with what you can only call mystically unerring accuracy to the same spot to lay their own eggs. Absolutely remarkable.
Absolute miracle. I mean, now that we've got Blue Planet and we've got all these other extraordinary programs, we do see these close-ups of these. They are all miracles, aren't they? I mean, how do those tiny baby turtles know that what they've got to do is climb out and then all on their own go down to the sea, which is quite a long way away, because actually the eggs are buried quite far up, aren't they, on the beach into the sort of sand dunes.
They're a fair distance. Well, they have to be. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows how it happens?
So it's big things, massive things like Michelangelo's statue and tiddly tiny little turtles. You know, for me, there was something that made me gasp at a time in my life when I couldn't see anything positive, really. I certainly couldn't see much colour, and I certainly couldn't see God. In fact, I think I'd lost touch almost totally, really. I was at university, and the things that I'd sort of experienced as a teenager were absolutely no use whatsoever at a time when everybody had much more exciting philosophies than my sort of middle class, going to church, being a bit bored era had taught me. And I was at Bristol University, and I went up on the Cheddar Gorge, and I was feeling really, really, really low, and I was lying there on the grass, and in front of me were some wildflowers. And I looked at these wildflowers, and one of them was a speedwell. And not only the front of the speedwell was I looking at, but also the back of it, and the extraordinary intricacy of the back of a flower. Just amazing. Not there for anybody to see, but on that day for me to see, and to remind me that even if I couldn't quite believe all of it yet, I could believe in a creator God. Yeah, it was so tiny things.
Yeah, I remember fairly recently meeting two of our children in a particular place, and I remember feeling quite emotional, and it's quite unusual for me to have tears in my eyes with them for some reason. And I remember them taking my hand and holding my hand, and it was, I don't know what it was, but did something inside me. It really did. But I've thought of another one.
Come on, then. I think we could go on like this forever, actually.
We could, and so could all of you, of course. When we were first in Yorkshire, it snowed. It snowed in a way that we'd never seen snow before. When it started, all the Yorkshire people said, "Oh, you haven't seen,
You're in
you
Yorkshire
think
now."
this is deep.
That's
You've
right.
not seen any." And later on, they're saying, "We've never seen
That's
anything
right.
like this."
That's right.
But they were snowed under. The world was white,
Yes.
and because we then were living in what is, I believe, called officially designated dark spot, the sky on the nights when there were no clouds, it was like jet. And the stars were Disney stars. They were Walt Disney stars. They were storybook stars. They were completely new out of the box stars, is the best way to put it. And they were startlingly brilliant.
Yeah.
And I remember when we went down the drive and we walked down to Kettlewell, to the village.
Oh, this is when we were first at Scargill,
First at
isn't
Scargill.
it? Yeah.
And I first saw the light from those stars kissing the snow. I believed for a moment that anything was possible. And I am very grateful to the stars, or God, who actually made them. So, sorry, God, you made them. But, I mean, this is a world where people and movements and everything are born and they fade and they die. And I've gone out at night and looked up at the sky and found a profound comfort in the eternity of it all. And I suppose it refreshes my belief and my hope that not everything has to end. And we all need a little refreshment in that area sometimes.
And of course, one of the great, great miracles, one of the wonderful things that God gave us is our ability to see the beauty in things like little turtles and Michelangelo, and hear music and see the stars. And of course, each one of us sees things differently. I found something written by Van Gogh, or I'm not going to tell you how I ought to pronounce it, it'll do for now. You know, one of his most famous paintings is A Starry Sky, and this is what he wrote. He wrote, "At present, I absolutely want to paint a starry sky. It often seems to me that night is still more richly coloured than the day, having hues of the most intense violets, blues and greens. If only you pay attention to it, you'll see that certain stars are lemon yellow, others are pink or a green, blue or forget-me-not brilliance. And without my going on this theme, it's obvious that putting little white dots on the blue-black is not enough to paint a starry sky." So his bit of an oddity, his extraordinary ability to see different colour and different shapes was special for him, given to him as a gift.
Yeah, we are great Van Gogh fans. As Bridget said, I mean, I believe if you pronounce it correctly, it sounds as though you've lost your voice. But I love the fact that he was so uncertain about what he was doing, and yet he did it with huge determination.
Yeah.
See, absolutely wonderful. And we've seen that in some of the people we've known. And I tell you someone else who impressed me enormously. It was a friend of ours called Paul Taphouse.
Oh, yes.
And Paul had quite serious learning difficulties
Well, he
in
had
some
giantism,
areas.
didn't he? Which
Giantism,
meant that he was far too tall, his feet were far too big, his hands were absolutely enormous, and he'd had epilepsy all his life, hadn't he? So he'd fizzed out bits of his brain.
And he used to walk past our house carrying his folder under his arm, and on it said Poet Martini. I'd seen that. Now, I'm going to tell you this because it's true. I felt I ought to know Paul, get to know Paul, and I really chickened out. But then one morning he had an epileptic fit in the gutter just down from our house, and maybe God said to me, either get out or shut up. And so I got Bridget. That was the quickest way. And we kind of picked him up and looked after him. And that began a friendship which lasted until he died. And he used to visit us every Wednesday evening. And I tell you what, he was the sweetest, most generous, most giving person I think we've ever known. Yeah. And so maybe it's a lesson for me that is repeated again and again and again, that the things you're reluctant to do, usually they give you back more than you gave. And we remember Paul with huge gratitude now, because he was a present to us. And we really, really loved him.
Mm.
And his personality and his generosity, still, when I think about them, make me gasp.
They made us gasp. They
Yeah.
really did. Yeah. So maybe today, if it's as beautiful a day with you as it is here, maybe we need to just allow ourselves time to think, what makes us gasp? Is it a person and their generosity? Is it colours? Van Gogh's colours, we all had different colours for the days of the week. He clearly had different colours for stars, which I found quite mind-blowing, really. Is it a memory that you have that you'd kind of forgotten how special it was? Maybe this is a good day to allow in your imagination the warmth of those beautiful things to come in and just flood you all over again for a little while.
And if you want to think of something slightly more trivial, one person has decided, it's not trivial for him, he's going to be a cappuccino rather than an espresso. I wonder what sort of drink you think I am. I've been thinking about that ever since we got that email.
Think they are?
No, me too. No, not me. I'd like to think about me. You can think about you. But I've been trying to think what I am as a drink.
Okay. I shall look forward to hearing.
I know. Okay. Well, there we are. Are you a gin? Are you a port?
Yes.
Are you a coffee? Are you a what? I don't know.
Yeah, we'd love to know what kind of drink you are, but only on the condition that you give us the reason why in one sentence.
Yeah.
That's your challenge.
Okay. There's your challenge, and we'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.